Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Crimson Crossover podcast presented by the Field of 68. Joey wasn't able to join us, but we got Charles here. So it's kind of an impromptu emergency podcast because of you know what happened last night in Los Angeles. Um, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing great. Just happy to still be there. Happy that you're there. Feeling pretty elite this morning. Just very excited to be back and to preview an Elite Eight game here in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I'm man. I mean they put me up there with Kobe and Coach Bryant, um, but man, it was a great experience. I'll say this: being in the press box, there is I because for those of you who don't know, during like while you're in the media press box, you're not technically like supposed to cheer, and so I had to be really quiet. But there was a guy that was audibly behind me cheering for Alabama during the game, and then suddenly the man disappeared. So um, not sure what happened, but I will say I did tear up a little bit. And fortunate enough, the way the press box worked, Danny Stewart and then my wife Sam, they were at the game. And it just so happened that their seats were directly below the press box where I was sitting, and so they got to sit like directly below me. And so the three of us, essentially, or two of us, because Sam left at halftime, but got to watch the game together. So that was kind of cool.
That's for the few minutes that we were on the space together. That's kind of what I talked about. Is just I think everybody's going to remember, whether you were there or not, who you were there with. I mean, the game ended at 11-10, and I got a 4 and a 5-year-old jumping up and down with me, excited every time Grant Nelson makes a shot or we get a rebound or get a defensive stop. I mean, and that's what I'm excited about, for Saturday too. Being with my brother Chris, my mom and dad, who are at my grandparents' house now, who always took us down to games in their Buick. So it's just, man, it just all that coming together and to have this opportunity where, I mean, look, we get to wear our retro white jerseys as a favorite playing for the Final Four. I mean, the closest we've been to the Final Four is 39 minutes left in the game. I think we were up 2-0 against Connecticut back in the day. So it's just awesome to have this opportunity with a team that I think Coach Oates talked about. They were very blue collar in the beginning of the year, and at times maybe some of their toughness has been questioned, um, and maybe on the physical side, but the mental toughness, especially in a game last night where you were taking punch after punch and giving it right back to North Carolina, just an incredible basketball game. Obviously, we feel that way because we won, but I would think any just casual basketball fan would look at that game and just be like that. Yeah, that's a game I would watch 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, and you talk about that. Alabama came back down 10 twice in that game. On top of that, with a minute or like 2 minutes to go, Alabama was up five. North Carolina immediately goes on an 8-0 run. Um, and the team earlier in the season, like Alabama, you saw that with Purdue, you saw that with Creighton, where Alabama was up, 5, 6 points, and then they go on a run. The other team goes on a run, and Alabama just kind of folds. Um, and the players in the locker room after the game were talking about that. They're like, that's why we schedule the way we do, because the games in December, the Purdue, the Arizona, the Creighton of the world, the Ohio State, Clemson, like those games down the stretch that you were sitting at 6-5 in December, and those games are the reason why they knew what they needed to do to close out and win the game, because they've been there before. Um, and so I know at times the schedule can be frustrating and the losses are frustrating, but one, it helps with seeding purposes. Like you're not a 4 seed if you don't play those games, even if you do lose. And then two, just from a mental standpoint for this team, like this team's been through the grind and they know what it takes that or what's needed to win the game. And that's what you saw on last night.
And to your point about Clemson, which we'll get into them a little bit, but that was a game we were up 7. And and we're starting to kind of pull away in the second half. And Brad Burnell called a timeout, and they answered with like a 13-0 run. Those were the types of runs we were not able to answer. We are a different team now, I believe, but we're not where we are now without having to go through some of those lumps during the season and learning how to win games and close out games when needed.
Yeah. And I'll say this, I got to talk to Nick Pringle after the game, as well as like Greg Byrne. Well, one, I, I went up to Greg after the game and I said, "Thank you for putting us in Spokane." I said, "I told you, I know I told you not to put us in Spokane, but he's like, he's like, I knew what I was doing." And he said, "But in all reality, I didn't have any like anything to do with like Alabama at all." And you know, he and I just poke fun at each other. But I asked Nick, I said, you know, you guys have talked about your get back tour, and that's been like a common, you know, phrase or point. And he's like, look, Alabama's played a majority of the teams in the Sweet 16. He said we're 0-6 versus those teams, um, but we know that we can win them because we've played them, and we know what it takes to win. And you, he said we'll have a game plan ready to go Saturday for Clemson, but uh, the get back tour is like real, and it's not like a revenge factor for them, right? Like it's not like, oh, we want to beat Clemson because we lost to Clemson. Like they are out to prove, you know, the whole link thing or whatever everyone
Yeah.
says. Like I I'm not really a big fan of like of that kind of stuff, like the whole like phrases and all of that. Like just let your you know mentality speak for itself on the court. It's kind of my thought. But you can tell that this team feels slighted. This team feels like they've been disrespected for most of the season, and they're out to prove, you know, themselves. And you saw it. You saw it against North Carolina, who, you know, people have talked about Alabama, or Alabama got the easy draw. Alabama got to play College Charleston. Alabama got to play Grand Canyon University. Alabama got to beat the worst one seed in the field. Like, look, it doesn't matter who you play or how you get there. An Elite Eight's an Elite Eight, right? You can have the narrative of Alabama played nobody to get to the Elite Eight. That's perfectly fine. You're, Alabama's there. People that are saying that are on the couch. Like, like if that's going to be a narrative that's going to be pushed by people on the couch, then so be it. Because at the end of the day, you know, 20 years from now, no one's going to be talking about how Alabama beat Grand Canyon to get to the Elite Eight, right? So that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I mean, the team just looked loose out there. And that
Mm-hmm.
definitely comes from playing the competition that we played, both in the SEC and in the non-conference. That even like I was concerned when we were down 19-9, just because we've seen that story and how that's played out several times in conference play. But they quit turning the ball over, they knocked down shots, and they knew that they could be in the game and play with North Carolina. Um, but I'm glad we spoke the Grant Nelson game into existence on the podcast earlier in this week. That was awesome. But even Aaron Estrada, like he was Aaron Estrada from Hofstra within the Alabama system. Like, yeah, he took some mid-range jumpers, but he looked confident, and you felt confident when he was going to take those shots. Rylan Griffin took in rhythm threes and shot the ball with confidence last night. Um, Even the Sam Walters and Jaron Stevenson misses. Like I know Sam had one, but they were good looks and they were shot with confidence. And that's what we're going to need on Saturday is guys to continue to play loose and continue to play with confidence. There's so many moments to talk about from last night, but one moment that I do want to mention. My brother mentioned called it out to me, Chris, while I was rewatching the game, and I think it just showcases this team as well, and Mudita or Modita or whatever you want to call it, where we've taken the lead back. Grant Nelson had gone to the free throw line and hit two free throws to tie it up at 77 all. We get a stop. He comes down, hits the bucket on the left side block, 79-77. We get another stop. that Griffin got the rebound. And as he's bringing it up, Mark Sears, who is now the single season point leader at Alabama, is pointing at Griffin to tell him to give the ball to Grant Nelson. And as soon as Grant gets the ball, Mark is yelling at whoever's in the corner. It may have been Stevenson or Walters, just to clear out, to get out of the way. And Grant steps up and hits a three. Like, again, that is your single season point leader who has had a phenomenal year, was not forcing it in the second half, was letting the game come to him. But you would think at that moment he'd want the ball in his hands. And he knew that the team was bigger than himself. He knew the kind of night that Grant was having, and Grant answered. And if you watch that play all the way through as Grant hits it, like, Oates was excited, Sears was excited. That's a play that's really just stuck in my memory from last night, as just what this team encapsulates as far as how much they enjoy playing with each other and how much they enjoy playing for each other. That it's not, as much as we talk about Mark Sears and he deserves all the accolades, it's not just the Mark Sears show. This is a basketball team that enjoys the success of everybody on the team.
That, and you talk about Mark Sears giving it up in the second half. The big one is the Grant Nelson and one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark is probing the lane, trying to get in and he's trying to be the guy, right? Like Mark wants that moment, and Mark deserves that moment because he's an All-American, right? He's one of the best guards in the country, if not the best guard, in my personal opinion. I might be biased, um, but you see him probing, and North Carolina does a great job on defense. They're stopping him, they're preventing him from getting inside. Mark draws the double team and throws it up over the double team to Grant, to where he gets an and one. Alabama goes up. What was that? Two at the time, or I think it
Yeah.
was two
87, 85. Once
or
Grant hit the
four.
free
It was
throw.
four. Yeah,
Yeah.
he went up four, and then they went down and scored,
Yeah.
and
Got
then
the late.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and like in that moment, you sit there and you're like, Mark could have forced a shot there to try to play hero ball. Um, it's like North Carolina tried to play hero ball down the stretch. With the ill-timed three, I think Withers shot it. Um, that Ryland got the rebound and did a run out, and I think Grant got to the line or something. Um, but Alabama played within its offense, played within itself, and was able to take advantage of North Carolina, which I want to talk about this. Alabama allowed 31 points in the second half. 31 to the a number one seed that had won what 28 games, and all season ever, and even after the game, which is just wild to me, all season any talking head in the country has said Alabama's defense sucks. Alabama's defense is terrible. Alabama can't do this. Alabama can't do that. But like in this tournament, you have seen Alabama's defense. This is the Alabama defense that can win a national title. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it can happen. Like
Yeah.
it really can happen.
Held them to under 40% for the game. And you think about how well they were shooting in the first half. And I actually liked the game plan, or at least the idea of the game plan of make North Carolina's poor shooters make shots. And they did. And you got to give credit to Trimble and Cadeau. And I know, the game plan was kind of scrapped in the second half. But like I liked that idea. And even though it wasn't working, we didn't get down on ourselves, and we continue to fight. Ryland Griffin steps up and says, "Look, I've got Cormac Ryan the rest of the game." And they go 2 of 16 from three in the second half. They don't shoot the ball in the second half overall well, and that's what allowed us to get back in, but propelled us to the win. And even us, like, we were kind of messing around in the first 5 minutes of the second half. Like, we won the first five, but we missed some opportunities both on shots and at the rim and at turnovers. So as much as, analytics, and we are big believers of analytics, like, we like telling that story, because I think we dropped from 101 or 102 to 104 in KenPom on defense. But like, you can tell the way that we're playing, and we didn't send Carolina to the foul line last night. We played defense without fouling. Like, yeah, they still scored, but we didn't give them the free shots, and we didn't overcomplicate it by fouling them and just continue to send them to the charity stripe, which I think too. Yeah, they're a fast team. We played faster, and I think our pace did wear them down towards the end of the game because you weren't having all these stoppages and had them shooting 30 plus free throw attempts. So the defense is definitely continuing to improve, and like you said, is at a level that it needs to be if you're going to compete for a championship in March.
which Alabama still is. Like,
Yeah.
that's all you can say. Oh, here comes Danny.
What's up, Danny?
Um, so moving to the Elite Eight, which I didn't think we'd be sitting here. I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't think we were sitting here last week. So, and I will say this: we have said all season that this is the team that's going to make a run. Like, I think we said that in December at 6-5 when we were 6-5. I was like, this Alabama team is going to be the one that makes the run because no one thinks that they're going to make the run, and they have the offense to make the run. Um, but moving to the Elite Eight, you got Clemson, who Alabama's faced. I think both teams are very, very different from when we played them the first time. Alabama doesn't even play the same starting five that they did um, in I think it was December that we played them. So what do you have for us for this Clemson matchup?
When we played them, we were coming off the Emerald Coast Classic, which was a disappointment, going 1-1, and it really started to show some of the deficiencies that we had on the defensive side. Because we gave up 92 points to Ohio State and 91 to Oregon. So there was a lot of questions on, okay, yeah, this is a great offensive team, but can the defense improve? And that game also tipped at 8:30. I think it was Tuesday night when we played Clemson. The Jay Williams comments are out there. I'm not going to mention what he said. It's already been said enough. But the vibe, being there, the vibe for that game was just really kind of off from the start, coming off of a disappointing weekend and just playing so late that night. Um, Look, the guy that PJ Hall's a great player. He can do it inside, outside for them as well. Chase Hunter has really been playing well for them. Joe Girard's, another guy that's seems like he's been in college basketball for 6 and 7 years. They got really hot from the 3-point line against us. I think they were 11 of 23. Maybe even better than that. They may have been over 50% when we played them. So, got to get out and keep them from getting into a rhythm. But Ian Shefflin's the guy who got a ton of offensive rebounds against us. He backed guys down and was a huge difference maker in that game in Tuscaloosa. Ramadan Moe did not play in that game. Ramadan Moe is a guy that I think is built to guard a guy like Ian Shefflin or to give him some challenges. Excuse me. With the bigger lineup that we have been playing with the injury to Reitzel, you can put a Nick Pringle also on a PJ Hall, and if Grant Nelson can continue to play with the same confidence and play without fouling, he's not as thick as Shefflin, but I think he's a guy that can at least body up. I mean, he's obviously been against some of the better bigs in college basketball this year. So we need to get out and run like we do. They're not a high tempo team. The thing that's been most impressive about Clemson over these past 3 games is they came into the NCAA tournament, KenPom defense at 67. They're now at KenPom defense 33 over the past 3 games. And they've done it against Baylor, and they've done it against Arizona. And New Mexico wasn't the best ranked KenPom offensive team, but they'd obviously have been on a great run in the Mountain West Conference tournament, which is a pretty good league as well. So it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a little bit more physical. I hope it's officiated where it's not a ref show, because I don't think anybody wants to see that. But I also think, look, I hope Latrell plays. I hope Latrell is well enough to play. I'll say it that way. But with how we shot the ball last night, like I think it's a game that we could hit 12, 13 threes, keep the ball hot. We got good looks against them the first time around. Guys hopefully will continue to shoot the ball with confidence. I think we out-rebounded them. We got a lot of offensive rebounds, in the first game too. So, again, I think our mindset is a lot better than the first time we played them. And I think our guys are fit more into their roles now and know what they have to do to come in and play. than they were relative to the first time that we played them as well.
Yeah, I think those are good points. Also, their tempo is pretty slow
Yeah.
relative to what Alabama. I think they're like 257.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and for Alabama, like they've kind of made teams play at their pace. Even North Carolina was like 41st in tempo, so it's not like Alabama was like they were so outpaced, but like Alabama has all tournament long has put people in situations where they're gonna play their style and they're gonna force you to do that. There was one point last night where Alabama or Clemson, it was 64-70. Clemson made a basket in 4 seconds. Alabama went down the court and made a three. Um, those are the type of plays that Alabama needs to continue to make tomorrow in order to have, I think, a really good shot to win this game. Now, one thing I will say is the players are very clearly seeing what's on social media. Nick Pringle last night said 93%, 93%, 93% of people lost their money uh, in response to North Carolina. So, like, they see that kind of stuff. What'll be crucial for them is to continue to play with the chip on the shoulder that they have because Alabama is going to be picked in this game. Alabama's going to be favored in this game. Um, and like that's one of the things that like hasn't happened in any of the three games. The majority of people have picked the opposing team to win. Alabama is the one that people are going to pick to win. Um, and so being able to play, stay focused, and play within themselves is going to be crucial for Alabama to get to their first Final Four ever. Um, but uh, I mean, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words, honestly.
I'm going to go back to some of the numbers from the first game because I want to be accurate about this. So Clemson shot 53% just overall field goal percentage. They were 11 of 21 from the 3-point line. So they were over 50% with a decently high volume, I would say, with 21 threes. PJ Hall was 3 of 5 from the 3-point line. Chase Hunter was 3 of 5. Joe Girard was 4 of 7. Like you can't have all three of those guys shoot over 60% from the 3-point line. So stopping at least one, if not two of those guys, is obviously going to be crucial. And when I say stop, again, don't let them be hot from the 3-point line. We took care of the ball pretty well in the first game. I think that was pretty crucial last night too. Is that I think at the end of the day, we only had 10 turnovers. We had 7 in the first half, so really did a good job of taking care of the ball in the second half. But if we can keep the ball hot, keep the ball moving, finding shooters, attack the rim with the idea to score, which we did last night, and make them collapse to where we then eventually get some good looks from the outside. Like that is Alabama basketball now, and that's what we got to continue to do is attack the rim and look to score at the rim, then looking, in my opinion, to initially kick out first. Play inside and then let the outside game come from there.
Yeah, and Clemson's one of the worst teams in the country as far as forcing turnovers. I definitely think they're in the bottom half. I saw the stat, but I didn't have it pulled up. But um, turnovers have been the key for this Alabama team the entire season. If Alabama doesn't turn the ball over more often than not, they win the game just because of how prolific the offense is. And I know a lot of people have harped on the defense, but when you can outscore every single team, like defense is all you need is a couple of stops and you
Yep.
and you win the game. Um, just because of how efficient the team is. Now, I'll say this: I would expect Reitzel to play. That would be my expectation. I don't know if that. I think he was closer to playing last night than people think. Obviously, he was participating in shoot around. He was doing practice before the game, and it just ended up being like a call, last minute call. But I would expect him to play, and I could be wrong on that. That's just the kind of vibe that I got in the locker room. And then I would also expect Pringle to play. I don't think Pringle's gonna miss this game. He's not that kind of like even if he's hurt, he's gonna play. Like that's the kind of person Pringle is. Um, but all in all, I mean, I don't think you could ask for a better situation for Alabama. Um, and I want to level set this, even if they do lose, and I know it would be frustrating if they lost just because of, how close they are. this is like beyond exceeding expectations at this point. Like this season is beyond anything I could have thought it would be. Um, I again thought we were going to lose the round of 32, so um, it's just I don't know. I
But
don't know.
whatever happens tomorrow night, what I feel comfortable about going forward is we're led by a coach that's not going to settle, that's not going to get comfortable. He's going to continue to go out there and recruit and develop and bring in good talent. He's going to continue to find new ways to win basketball games. I mean, I don't think the system's changing from what it's been, but he's going to be on the cutting edge of where the game's going instead of just sitting back on I've made an Elite Eight run and I've gotten us close to the Final Four or anything like that. So, regardless of what happens Saturday, like this program is in a good place and is going to continue to build on this. I don't see us, falling back into what we had to deal with over the past 2 decades, I guess.
Yeah, and I talked to you. I said this before the podcast. Like I said, super thankful, but I for this, but I had an opportunity to go to the team hotel after the game, um, and like congratulate all the players. Nate Oates. Well, first of all, none of the assistants walked in with the team, um, at all. I didn't see Preston Murphy. I didn't see Austin Concha. I didn't see Ryan Pannone at all. Nate Oates said in this press conference that the assistants were already working on the game plan right when the ball or right when the game finished. So I presume that the reason why they didn't walk in is because they immediately went back to the team hotel to start the game plan. Nate said that they would have it ready to go before breakfast this morning, and that no one was going to sleep, like meaning the coaches were not going to sleep. Um, but Nate walked into the team hotel before the team did, probably like 20, 15 minutes before the team did, said hi to a few people, and immediately went upstairs. Like, did not linger, did not cheer, did not like just immediately went upstairs. So Nate wants this. That's as locked in as I have ever seen Nate Oates. It's not like that's not just like words just to say words. Like he is like this is it. Like we're gonna do this, and you can tell based off of the second half adjustments that he made. Like in the during the season, and I love Nate. There were times where I thought adjustments needed to be made and they didn't happen. And we just kind of stuck with the game plan. But in the second half, you can tell, and the players stepped up too. Rylan literally told Nate that put him on Cormac Ryan because he wanted to shut him down. Um, Pringle told Nate to put him on Baycott because he was the Baycott killer. That's what he told me last night. He's like, he literally said, he went up to Nate and said, "Put me on Baycott. I'm the Baycott killer." So, um, it's like I don't know.
How,
I,
how about
I
the timeout he called on the Griffin three when we were down three to start to set up the defense? Like
he
that stuff
doesn't do
we've been
that.
asking. No, and that's stuff we've been asking for years. Like we know you want to play fast, so if you don't want to call a timeout when we got the ball on offense, that's fine. But maybe when we make a shot, then call a quick timeout, and that's what he did. Like he was he was in the zone, just like Grant Nelson was in the zone, like Estrada was in the zone, like he was in a coaching zone, focused, knew what he wanted to do, and hopefully that carries over into Saturday as well.
And I'll say this: the team does not have quit. They're not going to back down. They're not, even if they get down 12, 15, or whatever, like they're not going to take no for an answer. And I was going to ask Nate about this, but again, I got a little nervous in the podcast or in the press. I was sitting there and I was like, I was going to ask him that, but I didn't want to because I was like, I don't know what to do. But like, there's no quit in this team, and I think Alabama, not I think I know Alabama will have the best player on the court on tomorrow, and I know Alabama will have the best coach on the court tomorrow. And when you have the combination of those two things, it's hard to beat. It's hard to lose. Um, but just super proud of the team. Super excited to be here. We also have to, I think, real quick. I know we gotta dip out here shortly. you know, shout out to my wife.
Yes. Yes.
It is, I literally went back and looked. It has been 7 games this season. Yes, shout out to my
Yes.
shout out to my, it has been 7 games this season that Alabama has not necessarily been down double digits. So it was 5 games that they've been down double digits. And then I'm counting the Grand Canyon and the College of Charleston game, um, where she has literally like saw that Alabama was losing and has like intentionally left because we think that there's some type of like curse or jinx or whatever mojo thing. Last night at halftime, she goes, "All right, I'm gonna go sit out on the terrace in the arena." By the way, the terrace in the arena doesn't have a TV. There's no TV. So she literally was sitting out on the terrace outside in LA, probably was a little cold, just sitting there box score watching the phone. Whenever there was a loud cheer, she would look at her phone and update the score and did that for the entire second half because she thought that that's what she needed to do to let Alabama win. So, um, shout
I
out
like
her.
I like to refer to Sam Walters as Uncle Sam. I think Sam Sykes is now Aunt Sam.
It's well, that is her aunt name. So, um, but yeah, she was like, "Man, I really wanted to watch that game." Uh, but she did what she had to do, and I told Greg that. So Greg Byrne came up to me at the hotel, and I said, because Sam was standing next to me, and I was like, "This is my wife. Just so you know, 7 games this season, she's left at some point, and they have come back and won because she has left." And he goes, "Thank you for doing your part."
I mean, that sounds statue worthy outside of Coleman, just to like
I
really show, like, yeah, I want to be there, but I'm doing my part and not watching the game.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but no, I think Alabama's got a good shot tomorrow. I really do. I got a good feeling. Little bit of a nervous energy. The game yesterday, I told Blake Byler and Jacob Pickle before the game, I was like, I feel good about this game, and I've felt good all week about the UNC game, and I didn't have a reason why, but I don't know. I believe in our guys, but a little nervous about tomorrow. But overall, I mean, I'm just thrilled that we Mark's Madness is back.
Yeah. Yeah, if I got one last thing to say, if there's anybody that listens to these, which one, we appreciate all the listeners, like, subscribe, comment. We want to hear from you. But we were talking in our group chat before. If there's anybody that makes a really good Alabama white sauce, they need to contact the Alabama. We need to bottle that, and that needs to be the Grant Nelson white sauce for NIL to see if we can keep him for another year. Just to put that out there for some people to start thinking about things like that. But and we really appreciate everybody who's listening to us. Like when I talk about, how fun this is doing it with people, it's getting on with you, Christian and Joey and some of the other people that we get to talk to. Like this is what's made this experience even more special, is like there are Alabama basketball fans out here that really care about this program, that care about the success about this program, that know the game of basketball and want to share that with people. So appreciative to you, appreciative to Joey, and just appreciative to all of our listeners out there who suffer through us every week trying to hear about Alabama basketball.
Yeah, and I'll have some stats or some takes that I'm not going to mention just because I don't want them to jinx. But there's some stuff that hopefully I get to release on Saturday in relation to maybe some podcast stuff or different things like that. But um, for people that have asked, I'm trying to get in contact for like an Elite Eight shirt. Uh, I've tried to be proactive with that, but uh, you know how things go sometimes. So I don't know if we'll have one. I mean, we'll definitely have one. Um, if we lose, I'll definitely still try to do that. But if we win, we probably might just wait till the Final Four and just do a Final Four shirt. Which I guess I'd be able to release that design if we made it, huh?
Yeah.
Unlike last year, but um, how improbable is, and for everyone that says that Alabama can't beat a 1 seed, did it last night.
Yep.
Did it last night. So, and a blue blood, according, yeah, Danny is right, and a blue blood. And then we get to wear our retro jerseys in the Elite Eight, which is just incredible,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. But anyway, I think we'll jump off here after this emergency podcast. Appreciate, like Charles said, appreciate you guys listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, repost, like it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, whatever you guys do. Be sure to shop J&J Apparel. I'm wearing their polo. We got the pullover right here from Charles. And uh, maybe we'll have to have an emergency podcast on Sunday. Uh, if not, I won't be doing it in the airport. I think we get home at like probably actually might not be Sunday, it might have to be Monday because we have a 4 hour drive from Atlanta after we land. So, um, regardless of result, we'll have a podcast next week. It'll either be a season recap podcast or we'll be talking about how we're going to Phoenix, which I'll also say this. If you have an opportunity to go to the game tomorrow, because we're gonna post this either in the next like few minutes or probably tonight. Go to the game. Alabama should probably have a favorable crowd. I think there were more Alabama fans than Clemson fans, and I think it'd be very difficult for those fans to. I think it would be difficult for fans to come in. Um, Obviously, I think that will happen, but tickets are like $40 right now, to get in. So if you're in an area where you can either drive in, or like if you're on the West Coast, or I mean maybe even fly in, come to the game because there's an opportunity that you're going to witness Alabama history tomorrow. And I've always told people that are always if you're questioning going, there's only one time that you could witness history, right? Um, and an opportunity for Alabama to get to the Final Four for the first time in history is something that you should witness. So if you have an opportunity to get here, get here. If not, stay home, cheer for the team. You know, uh, energy comes from everybody. So any support that you guys have be great. So with that, I think we're good to sign off. And we'll either talk tomorrow or we'll talk later next week. So roll tide, and we'll talk again soon.
Roll Tide.